International Webinar, Entrepreneur, the Innovator, organized by School of Commerce. Let's start the event with the college prayer song by Sai Ganesh, 3rd BCom CS, Shift 2.
देह शिवा भर मोहे हैं शुभ कर मन से कभू न टरो देह शिवा भर मोहे हैं शुभ कर मन से कभू न टरो न डरो और तो जब जाए लड़ो न डरो और तो जब जाए लड़ो निश्चय कर अपनी जीत करो निश्चय कर अपनी जीत करो देह शिवा भर में शुभ कर मन से कभू न टरो हर सिख हो अपनी ही मन को हर सिख हो अपनी ही मन को लालच हो गुण तो रो है लालच हो गुण सोच रो देह शिवा भर में है शुभ कर मन से कभू न टरो जब आपकी ओझ निदान बने जब आपकी ओझ निदान बने अत हिरन में तब जूझ मरो अत हिरन में तब जूझ मरो देह शिवा भर है शुभ कर मन से कभू न टरो शुभ कर मन से कभू न टरो शुभ कर मन से कभू न टरो
Thank you, Sai Ganesh. Everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. A saying by Albert Einstein, tapping into genius is simple in theory, it's hard in practice. It comes from mastering the one activity you love most. We take immense pleasure in welcoming our resource person, Dr. Prabha Sandhanakrishnan, entrepreneur, AI and ML scientist, teacher, Northeastern University, Seattle. We are delighted to welcome our General Secretary and Correspondent, Manjit Singh Nair, in absentia, Principal Sir Dr. M.G. Raghunathan, Vice Principal Shift 2 Dr. N.C. Rajshri, Dean Academics, Dean School of Commerce Dr. R. Geeta, Deans of various schools, HODs, faculty members, and dear students for the today's international webinar on Entrepreneur, the Innovator. If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are here with us today. It's our principal, sir, Dr. M.G. Raghunathan. Sir, I request you to give the welcome address for the gathering.
Good morning, one and all present here. Esteemed resource person of the day, Dr. Prabha Santana Krishnan, entrepreneur, scientist, teacher, Northeastern University, Seattle. My dear colleague and Dean of Commerce, Dr. Geeta, and she is also the head of the Department of BCom Honors. And all my colleagues who are now participating in this international webinar, and the organizing secretaries or the committee members, Dr. P.S. Sridharan, Dr. Purushothaman, Dr. Mr. Paul Edison, Dr. Prabhu, Dr. Adilinga Sanjit, and Dr. V. Nitya, and all my colleagues who are now here. A very pleasant morning, and I extend a wholehearted welcome to all the participants, and especially my wholehearted welcome to our resource person of the day, Dr. Prabha. On behalf of Guru Nanak College, sir, I extend a hearty welcome to you, sir. This is probably for you, this is late evening, I think so. For us, this is the early morning. But anyway, we are all happy to listen to your lecture on the innovator, the entrepreneur, the innovator. The topic itself is very nice. I am also, like other participants, eagerly waiting to listen to your lecture, sir. I abundantly wish the department and the organizers, especially Dr. Geeta, for arranging a wonderful webinar and bringing out a eminent person to our campus offline. And also, I request you, sir, if time permits, we can organize an international conference in the campus. And if time permits, please, you make a visit to our campus and we will take care of you everything, sir. We will have a wonderful international conference in a bigger way. Thank you once again. I welcome one and all for this wonderful international webinar on this happy morning. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity given. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the amazing words, sir. Thank you. Now, I request Dr. R. Geeta, Dean School of Commerce, Head and Associate Professor, BCom Honors, to introduce the resource person to the audience. Ma'am, please.
Thank you, Nitya. To win without risk is to triumph without glory. A delightful morning to one and all present here. It's my privilege to introduce the esteemed resource person and entrepreneur himself, Mr. Prabha Santanakrishnan. He is an entrepreneur, artificial intelligence, machine learning scientist, and a teacher. He is working as the Chief Technology Officer at Dian Inc., an AI-based healthcare startup operating in stealth mode at Seattle, Washington. Prior to this, he was working for Microsoft Corporation at Redmond, Washington as a principal data scientist, leading several data engineering and data science teams for almost 2 decades. He also teaches at Northeastern University, Seattle campus. He holds bachelor degree in electronics and communication engineering from Government College of Technology, Coimbatore, and master's degree in machine learning and data science from University of California, Berkeley. The best way to predict the future is to create it. Let us pave way for the greatest of inventions and innovations yet to come from the upcoming generation of entrepreneurs. Thank you, one and all. Over to the resource person.
To get started, I talk about this topic, entrepreneur, the innovator. It's one of my favorite, passionate topic in terms of me being an entrepreneur and sharing my journey so that I can at least inspire a few others to come onto this journey. I thank Mr. Sardar Manjit Singh, sir, and Principal Dr. M.G. Raghunathan, sir, and Vice Principal Dr. N.C. Rajashri, ma'am, and Dr. R. Geeta, the Dean of Commerce. And thank you for giving me this opportunity. So today we will talk about what is entrepreneurship, how do I become an entrepreneur, and how innovation fuels entrepreneurship is the key topics and the key principles about entrepreneurship that we would want to briefly discuss about. And I would want to give a few examples on some of the businesses, some of the companies, how they successfully used innovation to not only to thrive but also to lead in the industry. But at the same time, some of the companies who failed on innovation were basically they're gone out of business. So innovation plays a very, very fundamental key role in the entrepreneurship. So let's get started. Before anybody wants to become an entrepreneur, the single most important question that we want to address or ask is, why do you want to be an entrepreneur? So we need to have an understanding what makes us to become an entrepreneur, or what is that you are interested in that field, in that domain is something very basic and fundamental. We wanted to ask that question to anybody who is thinking about it. So when we ask this question to many others who are already an entrepreneurs, these are some of the reasons, some of the responses that we got why they wanted to become an entrepreneur. For example, that you are your own boss. Like you don't have anybody else to manage you. So you are the chief boss of your organization. And someone else said that in a sense of accomplishment, like I'm creating something from nothing, or even bigger than that, from like almost starting from ground zero. And then that makes me feel the proud moment of accomplishing something. And some others responded that passionate to change the world. There are many examples of how today some of the key businesses change the world, how we do, how we eat, how we buy, how we travel. So it's all like groundbreaking innovations that happen in this field. And few others said that, I don't want to look for a job, I want to create jobs for others. And flexibility, independence, and there are many other reasons why someone wants to be an entrepreneur, but these are the few things that comes to the top. So now let's look at the definition of entrepreneurship. If you look at the Oxford definition, the activity of setting up a business and taking financial risks in the hope of profit. So that's the official definition of entrepreneurship. If you look at this key, the phrases here, it's all about setting up a business. If you want to set up a business, you need a product, maybe more than a few other products, and maybe multiple businesses coming together as an organization, and taking on financial risks. So risk is something like, it works against the thought of becoming an entrepreneur to many people, and in the hope of profit. It's not even saying that guaranteeing the profit, in the hope of profit. The profit doesn't mean that not just for the entrepreneur himself or herself, but also for the people who are investing in that organization. If it is a private company, if it is a public company, the shareholders. So you are there to make money for the shareholders. So there is a lot of risk in creating, setting up a businesses, managing all the financial risks, and then maybe you will get the profit or you may not even get the profit. So because of this like turbulent nature of this journey, many people do not choose to become an entrepreneur. So they go and work for somewhere else. But it is not that difficult if you follow certain principles and keeping the perseverance in mind and work really, really hard, we can really be successful in entrepreneurship. And that's what we want to look at some of those things today. The first thing is having an entrepreneurial mindset. Entrepreneurial mindset is all about certain way of thinking and acting in creating a successful enterprise. Because you saw that like there are many businesses, many products that you want to build, and still that there are a lot of risks, and also you may or may not even get the profit. So if you want to be successful with that circumstances, you want to have a special mindset, and that's what we call a growth mindset. A growth mindset is a special kind of mindset on how entrepreneurs think, behave, react, and act on certain things, on managing these risks, managing this financial crisis, building the complex product, changing the world, and at the same time following their passion. So to understand what growth mindset is, let's first understand what is fixed mindset is, which is completely opposite of growth mindset. The fixed mindset it thinks about failure is the limit of my abilities. Once I fail on something, whether it is like failure on my exams or failure on my first business that I set up, or even my job, for that matter, anything. If you think failure is the end of anything that you wanted to do, and that's the prime example of a fixed mindset. So you think I'm either good, maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm not born with that kind of special abilities. My abilities are unchanging. I don't like to be challenged, right? If someone gives you harsh feedback, like we don't want to be challenged. I can either do it or don't do it. So my potential is all predetermined. So I don't have the God's grace. I can't change myself. And when I'm frustrated, I give up. And feedback and criticism are personal. So I take everything to personal. So these are all the attributes or the characteristics of the fixed mindset. So if you have these kind of mindset, then it will be really, really hard to become an entrepreneur. So it's not just for the entrepreneur, even for all of us in our personal, professional, social life. I think having this fixed mindset gives us a lot of troubles. So what do we need? We need a growth mindset. Failure is an opportunity to grow. Every time I fail on something, I learn something so that I don't repeat that mistake again and fail fast. So how I work on identifying my mistakes and fail fast and learn from that mistakes and use that learning to grow further is the prime example of a growth mindset. I can learn to do anything that I want as long as I can put the time and effort to it. Whether it is learning musical instruments or like learning a computer algorithm or even setting up a new business, everything is possible as long as I can put that effort and the time to learning that. Challenges help me to grow. So if you get discouraged by challenge and quit on what you're doing, then it will be hard to become an entrepreneur. So feedback is constructive. So every feedback that I get, I'm not going to look at that as the negative thing. I'm going to use that as the constructive, so that I can build on growing my skills. I like to try new things, and I'm inspired by success of others. So these are all the prime attributes, characteristics of a growth mindset. So to be fair, like one of the things that changed Microsoft in this last decade, so that it is competitive to be with Apple or Google or Amazon, is all about changing the company's culture of this Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella, who brought this growth mindset, and that's what really made the company really, really successful. In fact, I strongly recommend this book written by Dr. Carol Dweck, and she is the one came up with the psychology of success and how do you have this mindset, and in terms of how you can successfully conduct your business or even parenting, school, or in relationship. So it's a great book to read if you're interested in. So now that we understood what kind of mindset that we want for setting up an entrepreneurship for us, we would want to look at some of the examples. So next, what I want to do is that I want to show you some pictures. I want you to think of the companies that you think of when you see this picture. Put your entrepreneur hat on yourself and look at this picture and tell me what kind of companies that do you think. Of course, you can't tell me in the call, but at least think of the businesses or the organizations, the companies that you can think of. So I have a picture of a taxi here. So if you rightly guessed Uber or Ola, that's it's great. So now that we trained on one example, I want to show you another picture, and then think of any companies that you can think of, any organizations. So it's a picture of the hotel. So obviously, you should be thinking something like OYO or Airbnb. There is a reason why I'm showing all these pictures to you. So I'll talk about that in a minute. Then the next one, it's a picture of someone texting. So if you see this picture, what you can think of from an entrepreneurial standpoint is some of the companies like WhatsApp, Signal, Telegram, and those are the groundbreaking companies who are enabling us to do all sorts of texting and all the data transfer. The next one is I'm sure we all knew this. It's a delivery person picture. If you think of companies, obviously Swiggy, Zomato, Amazon, and Flipkart. So we have seen this as an example. So these are the companies which have used groundbreaking innovation for their success, whether it is Uber and Ola kind of companies, for the taxi business, or OYO or an Airbnb kind of businesses for hotel and accommodation, or a delivery platform delivery companies like Swiggy and Zomato, or WhatsApp and Signal for communication. So all of them use their innovation to fuel the next level of their enterprise. In fact, they have become so successful that the innovation is something like put them in the top of the list. I'll give you a small example of how Airbnb started. Airbnb stands for air, bed, and breakfast. In fact, a couple of people graduating from Stanford University in San Francisco, they are really, do not have any money to pay their rent, and they were struggling, and at the same time, like trying to get their degree graduation done, but they are not able to pay off their rent. So that's when they started renting their bed that they have, and also providing some small breakfast for the people who can come and stay, whoever is traveling to San Francisco. And that's how Airbnb started. Like, rest is history. I think Airbnb now is like a $6 billion company. So it started something really, really small, and it has grown into such a large enterprise. The fundamental to that is the innovation. So what is the innovation that they used? Let's take some of those examples again. Uber, for example, is the world's largest taxi company. How many vehicles they own? Absolutely zero. They do not own any vehicles for that matter. Similarly, take an example of a YouTube, the world's largest media company, media platform. What kind of content they create? They don't create any content for that matter. And similarly, Airbnb, the world's largest accommodation provider, they own 0 rooms. And the world's most valuable retailer, Alibaba, they own 0 inventory. So it is a groundbreaking innovation that happened in this platform that made them so successful. Like some of the taxi companies, prior to the existence of Ubers and Ola, they never upgraded themselves. Maybe they upgraded, maybe a bit, but they never innovated. Like none of the hotels, like Taj and Marriott and Hilton and any hotel big chains, they're all struggling now. They're all trying to see how they can use Airbnb, OYO, or VRBO to make sure that they can continue to sustain, survive in their businesses. So all of these companies, none of them had the prior experience. Uber was never a taxi company. Airbnb was never a hotel room. They all started something very small. They consistently worked on it, and they faced all the risks, all the challenges with the growth mindset, and they are able to achieve what they achieved. So that's the example of like how innovation can fuel entrepreneurs to be very successful. Now let's talk about what happens if you're already very successful in a business and you don't give an importance to innovation. Maybe you are upgrading whatever the businesses that you are in, but you don't really give a serious thought, serious importance to innovation. So there are a few companies that we want to talk about. We all remember India's #1 call taxi service, Fast Track. Where are they now? They're completely gone out of business. They are #1 a few years ago, not long ago, but now they're completely gone out of business. And then there is another example, HPF, Hindustan Photo Films. Like if you've been to Ooty, like maybe 10 years ago, everybody goes to Ooty. Is one of these the visit is to go visit the HPF company, which is the Hindustan Photo Films. They're very famous. When the world moved on from the film roll to the digital photography, they forgot, or they were complacent, they were lazy. They did not do any innovation to upgrade their businesses. That completely puts them out of the race, actually. So now the digital cameras and all the digital phones and everything has the much better cameras, and you can take hundreds of thousands of pictures, but they never upgraded. That's what happened to Fast Track. So they are forced out of business. And remember Nokia phone. Nokia phones were like the very popular phones like 10-15 years ago, and also the BlackBerry. So many people had Nokia phone, and like some of the celebrities like movie stars and sports personals, and they all had BlackBerry. What happened to them? Actually, they're also gone out of business, but at least they're trying to, they learned their lesson in a hard way. Now they are trying to come back again by re-strategizing and inventing new business at least. But they were the most successful brand in India, and of course anywhere else in the world too, but they are forced out of businesses because of the new innovation that happened in the mobile phone industry. Similarly, Yahoo, it's an email platform. Everybody in India had a Yahoo account 10 years ago. Now, anyone still using it? No. And similar story. They also forgot or like complacent for not doing any of their innovation in what they were working on, even though they were at the top. It doesn't take much to throw them out of the business. So innovation is like really, really important, not only to be in the market, not only to be in the race, but also to continue to lead. You got to continue to keep innovating. So that's the importance of how innovation fuels the entrepreneurship. Another great example here. This is a very interesting example. Like these two are the icon for Indian automobile industry. One on the left is like, everybody's familiar with Ambassador car. Like everywhere you go, that's the only car that was available for us. Everywhere that we use only that as the mode of transport when it comes to car. On the right side, you have the Royal Enfield. So when the world market opened up in mid 90s to 2000, there were a lot of competition from everywhere else. And the ambassador, Hindustan Motors, they did not really upgraded or like innovated on what they should be doing to face that competition, face that risk. But at the same time, Royal Enfield came up with new models, and in fact, they made some new agreements to some of the world famous motorcycle manufacturers, and they revived. And when they see the competition, when they see the pressure from the market, and now they released latest motorcycles, now they are back into the game again. So that's like some of the examples, like we lived with us, how these kind of businesses disappeared all of a sudden. That's because of purely that they didn't pay attention to the innovation. Okay, that brings us to the number one principle when it comes to entrepreneurship. Number one thing, find the real problem to solve. You need to look around. You need to look your street, your city, your country, everywhere else. See what is the real problem. You don't need to really invent an engine which cannot catch fire for planes, but at least you can start something really, really small. I want to show you a small video of how someone started and then how you see the spark of the entrepreneurship with that person. So it's a video of ninth grade person. I'm not sure you may have seen this video for some time. These are some clips of it.
Walking home from school, I noticed one of the ironing men in my street using charcoal. Charcoal contributes to air pollution and creates more toxic pollutants. So I researched for a viable solution to prevent air pollution and increase air quality. So I realized that solar energy can efficiently substitute charcoal. That's when I got my idea of the solar ironing cart, because I wanted to replace charcoal with solar energy.
So we'll stop right here. So when I saw this video, my jaw dropped. Like, she is the real entrepreneur. She looked around, she saw the problem, and she first thought about doing something about it, I'm sure she may have reached out to a few others to help her. But at the end of the day, she is the real entrepreneur in terms of starting with something small and getting the help from others and building this. So you don't need to be, building something big like a Uber or like Swiggy or like Amazon or Microsoft for that matter. So you can start something really, really small. In fact, all those companies that I mentioned, they were all started really, really small. You don't need to even have an, higher level of like degrees or graduations to be able to be an entrepreneur. Someone who has that mindset, someone who has that passion, someone who has that fire to do something, change the world, is all we need. So hats off to this girl. I'm sure like there are many investors already reaching out to her in terms of how you can scale this out so that it can be a real use for like not only for the people in India but also for the people out there in the world. So it's a great thing that I was really, really impressed when I saw this video for the first time. So that brings down to our second principle: start something really, really small. Even to build something really, really big, you have to start somewhere very small. Like the girl Vinisha started something very small. In few years, I'm sure that we all going to see her how successful, how big her company or her enterprise is going to be, right? So start something small. First is to find a right problem and start something small is my second principles. You all know this picture, right? So the picture of a bicycle, it's one of the finest bicycle hero company produced, which has like, I think, rear cassette is about like 7 gears and the front is about 3, altogether put together 21 gears and nice suspension. I'm sure some of you may own it. So if this is what they develop, the finest bicycle that you can see, but if you look back in the history, the bicycle was never started like this. So this is the first bicycle that people, mankind, humankind ever worked on. In fact, it didn't even have a pedal. So it has to start something small. Even to get to this finest, fancier product, you have to start something small. It doesn't need to be fancy. It doesn't need to look good. It just needs to solve the problem. And you iterate on it on like, multiple revisions, multiple cycles. And that's how you get to, become really a bigger enterprise or a bigger attractive product. Similarly, when people talk about finest luxurious car, everybody thinks about Mercedes-Benz. If I told you this is the first Mercedes car that they produced, I think it was really surprising to see that. Like this was what you see on the left is the first Mercedes-Benz car. And what you see on the right is maybe the latest one. Maybe they're working on even better than that. But they also started something small and they really worked on it, passionately, and perseverance is what paid them off. So do not look for perfection. Perfection is the enemy of the progress. So that's what, like, this is the biggest mantra of entrepreneurship. Strive for progress, not perfection. Eventually you may get perfection in your journey. In fact, perfection is not a destination, it's a journey. You keep working on it all the time, but you need to look for progress, because if you keep waiting for the perfect product, perfect moment to happen, by that time your competitor will be already taking the market, taking your business. So you got to find the right problem, start something small, and get to your customers. So that's what is going to be our third principle. Oh, before that, like, this is another interesting website that we all are familiar of. This is the Amazon.com home site. This is like much fancier. There is so much intelligence behind this website that one cannot imagine. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, and data science are powering this website. In fact, to give you an example, like, for our own recommendations that it throws, if you go to this website and if I go to this website, so we'll see different things, because it knows you differently versus me. It knows me, what I like, what I don't like, or if I bought a TV, it might even recommend me a stand for that. So it knows how and what I am and what kind of recommendation it can throw. So that's how it is built. It's not just a simple website. So their motivation is to make sure that you buy something. In fact, they're all coming up with one of the intelligent algorithm, like if you just mouse over on certain product, they already start shipping so that they can get to you that very fast. Now, not sure in India, here in US, like you can get things shipped in 2 hours. So they deliver things in 2 hours because there's so much intelligence built around in getting that last mile to your door. But if you look at their first website few years ago, this is their first website. So they did not wait for this fancy, nice, customer loving website that they put together on the right side. They started with something very, very small. It's a basic HTML website. So basically start with something small is the key message here. I also recommend a book called Jugaad. Jugaad is the name in Hindi name, and the book written on it on how frugal and flexible approach to innovation is the fundamental to get started something. It's a great book. It also received a lot of awards for that, and it gives a lot of examples of how the innovation happened across, like North India to Central to South, and how frugal and flexible approach people have taken to find the right problem and how they're solving it. So it's a great book for you to read as well. So that brings us to our third principle: know your customer. We just talked about the example of how Amazon knows us personally so that they can start selling more product to us. That's how they make money to themselves and as well as for their shareholders. That's how they mitigate their financial risk. If you are an entrepreneur, your job is to make money for the people who invested on you and for yourself. So for that, things like knowing your customer, knowing their problem, knowing what they want. In fact, nowadays people tell that, I don't know what I want, but Amazon might know what I want. So if I go to Amazon website, it might tell me based on my previous purchases and people like me. So that's what called the collaborative recommendation engine that they built. So there are many things about how to know your customers. In India, we had the problem of not really addressing or expecting a repeat business from the same customers, because there's so much people around there. Even if one person come to my shop every day, I can still make my living. So there is no incentive to impress that customer. There is no incentive to attract that and retain that customers. But those are the days are gone. Now there's a competition. There's a competition between Swiggy and Zomato. There's a competition between Ola and Uber. So there's so many options in the digital world today. It is very, very important to attract and also retain those customers. So for that, we got to know our customers. Even if you build let's say you want to become an entrepreneur, you set up a roadside small grocery shop. How you treat your customer, how do you talk to your customers, how do you engage in terms of how you sell your products to them, so that you keep that relationship going, so that you can continue to get their business. So knowing the customer is very, very important. I wanted to quote the famous quote from father of our nation, Mahatma Gandhi, about customer. Customer is the most important visitor on our premises. He or she is not dependent on us. We are dependent on him or her. He or she is not an interruption in our work. He or she is the purpose of it. He is not an outsider in our business. He or she is part of it. We are not doing him or her a favor by serving him or her. He or she is doing us a favor by giving us an opportunity to do so. So he has said long time back about how you should treat your customer. So being an entrepreneur, treating your customer, knowing your customer, understanding your customer is very, very important for you to be successful in that business. So that's our third principle. Our fourth principle, again, it's innovation. We talked so much about it already, how innovation fuels the success of the entrepreneurship. Must invent, iterate, don't wait for the perfection, and interact. That means here in the meaning of disruption, how you disrupt the world. Today, Everything is like a disruption. All these big disruptions that happen through the digital era are all fueled by the innovation. So the innovation is, of course, our fourth principle. When it comes to innovation, I want to talk about two gentlemen. In fact, there are many more. I just picked these two of them. You may have seen their photos in the past. The one on the left is Jeff Bezos. He is the Amazon CEO as of last week. In fact, he stepped down as the CEO last week. The story behind Jeff Bezos and how he started, and of course, like we all know that he is the richest person on this planet. When he came to Seattle about 20 years ago, when he wanted to set up the Amazon.com website, he reached out to several investors about the idea of selling books online. That's when like internet was really picking up, and he wanted to sell the books. That's how he started. He wanted to sell only the books, and he reached out to many investors who are usually investing in these kind of businesses. He reached out about like 52 investors. 52 investors rejected him, saying that it's not a great idea, or maybe it may not work out. It is something like you need to do something else. So those are the advices that he got. But at the same time, like, he did not give up. He kept on like pursuing this idea. He was building his prototype. He's talking to people. 52 people have rejected him. The 53rd person invested on him, on his idea. The 53rd person is like a multi-billion-dollar person now. But imagine those 52 first 52 people thinking now. So the key message is that do not give up just because you're facing a problem. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you will have to face these challenges. You will have to fight this, and perseverance is really, really key. And that's what Jeff Bezos did. No wonder he is the number one, the most wealthiest person. And not forget about the wealth, the empire that he created, like Amazon.com or even AWS, Amazon Web Services. It's an amazing cloud technology that helps us. It helps like hospitals, it helps like transportation, it helps like insurance, finance, banks, everywhere today. Without cloud, there's nothing that works. So Amazon and AWS is the front runner when it comes to cloud technology. So that's something like changing the world. Then I want to take another example on the right. His name is gentleman name is Sri Majority. He's the CEO of Swiggy, and Swiggy was started not long ago, about like 2014 or 2015, about 5-6 years ago, and he struggled a lot. In fact, when he started that platform, in fact, there was no app at the time. He just started on a website, and nobody was willing to buy the food through Swiggy at the time. He started in Bangalore, if I remember correctly. And about for 6 months, he had only 17 orders, 17 orders in 6 months for the first 6 months. And who drove the scooter and delivered those food to the people? It's himself, Sri himself. So he was like riding the scooter, wearing that Swiggy t-shirt, and selling or delivering that food for the first 6 months. So he struggled, but he did not give up. So he kept on working on this idea, connecting with the people, creating that network. So he believed in himself and he believed in that idea. He faced all those challenges. And now Swiggy is about $4 billion net worth today. And it is expected to grow to $10 billion in next 4 years. So that the initial hardship these two gentlemen faces and how they conquered by their sheer perseverance and passion towards what they believed in. And that's what made them as the biggest entrepreneurs of the world. It's a great example from one in America and one in India. That brings us to our next principle: build a great team. You can have the fantastic idea, you can have the investment from people who wants to bet on you, and it could be the right problem to solve. But if you do not have a team to work together, it's very, very difficult, very, very impossible to really build something great. To build something great, you need a great team. And it could be from different diverse background. It need not be technology based background. It could be someone who can sell the product, someone who can build the product, someone who can market the product, someone who can like provide the support to the entire company. It could be a different background, different diverse background, but all you need is someone working with a great team to build the dream product or a dream company that you are working on. I think this is the lesson from our Panchatantra we all have learned when we were kids, but actually should be taught for the adults. When we are together, you can really face any challenges and get things done. But when you are alone trying to do, it's very impossible. The lion in this picture depicts the risks and the challenges and the crisis, that turbulences that you may be facing as an entrepreneur. So it's a very, very key message for all of us, especially if you want to become an entrepreneur. And there is also a saying from Africa: if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. If you want to go fast, you may want to go alone and you may not reach further. You might stop, soon. But if you want to go far, you want to go together. So that, presses the importance of the teamwork. So teamwork is very, very important. You cannot build alone. You need a greater team. And how you respect your team, how you treat your team, and how you all come together in building the great things that we all determined to build. So that's the key element for our entrepreneurship. So to summarize, the 5 key principles. Of course, you can have more, but these are the 5 top things that I believed in and I follow in my entrepreneurial journey. Find the right problem, start something small, iterate, know your customer, understand your customer, build a great team, and keep innovating. So that's the key principles of this. So now we talked about what is entrepreneurship, how do I become one, what are the key principles of entrepreneurship, and all those great things, right? But how do I get started? So if I'm sitting in India listening to this, hopefully some people get excited, and if they get excited, like, how do I get started? So there are some wonderful resources available put together by Government of Tamil Nadu. That's what I wanted to share with you today. There is a website called editn.in. It's specifically built for Entrepreneurship Development on Innovation Institute. And there's a number of programs that they run. The one that they were running when I was checking is the Innovation Voucher Program. And there are some training programs, there are some classes that they teach, and there are mentors that are available. And there are also investors you can get connected to. If you have an idea, you don't need to have money to build. You can reach out to these people and they can help you. In fact, they act like an incubation, a launch pad. They are your incubators. Like, they work on an idea, they bring people together, like-minded people, and they connect them and then be able to run this as a program, and government helps as well. So it's a wonderful program by the Government of Tamil Nadu in entrepreneurship development. So there is a startuptn.in. That's another amazing resource available to us. It's enabling innovation-driven economy in Tamil Nadu. So it doesn't matter if you're a startup or an enabler, there are tons of opportunities that they have. In fact, they have about more than 300 startups that they helped. And there are, again, resources that are available here in terms of how they incubate the idea. So it could be that solar iron box that girl that created, or it could be something very small or similar to that. As long as you have an idea, I think it's good to talk to them. Or even if you don't have an idea, go attend these seminars, go attend these training programs. You will get an idea. And again, you don't need to have your own idea. You can find people who has an idea and then come together as a team. Then you can build that. And then maybe you will also be like Jeff Bezos or Sri Harsha, like people. You never know. You'll have to start somewhere. You have to start believing in yourself and then get started somewhere. And I love this channel. This is my favorite channel, Doordarshan. And there is a program in Doordarshan Podigai. It's called Nimirnil. And if you do not see that, you can come to this website and then you can watch that program in terms of one can become an entrepreneur. There are a ton of things that they talk about, ton of resources that are available in terms of how one can become an entrepreneur in Tamil Nadu. So make use of these programs. I would recommend another, actually, yeah, let's talk about Google. Google is very much interested in investing, creating entrepreneurs in India. They run an accelerator program. So they're basically looking at, of course, machine learning and artificial intelligence and cloud and mobile apps, Android websites and things like that, that your product strategy and marketing. So they are looking up creating these entrepreneurs in India. So if you're interested, go to this website and connect with some Google employee there who are ready to help in terms of how you can become one. Even if you don't want to become one, just go try it. Like, you never know, you might get interested, you might spark an idea, rest will be history. This is another show that I watch here in the US. It's telecasted in the US, called program called Shark Tank, specifically for entrepreneurs. I'm not sure any of the channels in India are telecasting. If not, you can go to YouTube and then watch the previous telecasts that are available. Very, very interesting. You will learn from these are called six sharks. They are ready to invest in your idea as long as they believe in that idea and as well as in you. And they provide all the resources and the money. But primarily run in here. But at least you will get excited by looking at this, how they talk and how they what kind of questions that they ask and how what they expect from the entrepreneur and those kind of things. So strongly recommend to watch this in YouTube if it is not available in any of the channels. Finally, I want to close this with my favorite poet and my favorite Kural. Devata Nagadeninum Mayarchidan Mayvarta Kulidaram. So we're not talking about whether there is a God or not. So that's not the point. The point is, as long as like you are ready to work hard, even if it hurts your body, then the results will show up eventually. So that's the key message here. If you look back in Tirukural, there are ton of information, ton of advices provided by Thiruvalluvar in terms of leadership, management, how you conduct your meetings, how do you talk to your people, how do you behave yourself, and how you work towards building an enterprise and how to become an entrepreneur. So all those tips are available in our own history, our own 2000 years ago, our own poet wrote this beautifully, and I think it's worth to revisit those advices from him. So with that, I thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I hope it was useful to you, and if there are any questions, I'm more than happy to answer it at this moment. And also you can reach out to me if you need for further advices and any suggestions.
No, it was a wonderful presentation, sir.
Thank
Very
you.
useful, very useful. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That was really an interesting presentation, like how brands re-strategize for their success, like inventing new products or giving the new business models. And you also highlighted on the key principles for the entrepreneurs. That was really an interesting presentation. Thank you, sir.
Sir, I have a question.
Absolutely.
You said something that Panchatantra for team to motivate. How to motivate the team, sir?
How to motivate the team? That's a very interesting, very wonderful questions actually. In the past, that we used to have rewards for individuals. Whether fortunately or unfortunately, the human behavior is all tuned towards the rewards that we get, and that's how our mind works. And there's nothing wrong in that. We are all designed like that. I think the best thing that we do is in our enterprise, in our businesses, to scrap that individual awards and create team awards. Either you win together or you lose together. That is the message that we try to bring in. And of course, it's very hard, to be fact. It's a how you bring in the team culture. How do you enable them to trust and rely on others is a very interesting thing. I can quote from my experience from Microsoft. The thing that how we promote somebody, how we give a leadership role, or even bonuses and things like that, is based on the question that we ask, like, have you taken help from others? If they say yes, that's the people that we want to promote. If someone says that no, I did not, I did it myself, and we don't want those kind of culture, we don't want that kind of people. And that's how we built the team rewards and people working together. We rewarded the people who helped others, or even people who received help from others. So as long as you build that remuneration towards each other, and how not only you become success, how you help enable other success should be recognized and rewarded. Then only the teamwork you can really see it.
It was beautifully explained, sir. Thank you, sir.
Students, if you have any questions, you can post it in the chat box. And the students who are watching from the YouTube streaming also can post your questions on the comments. So there are a few questions from the YouTube comments.
Please.
From the students. Any device for students wanting to pursue AI and machine learning?
Any advice for AI and machine learning?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. So the world is moving towards artificial intelligence. Whether it is good or bad is something that we will have to wait and see. The machine learning and artificial intelligence is going to be the future. It is already there. If you're using apps like Swiggy or Zomato, there is already AI and ML behind this. If you're using Amazon or Flipkart, there is already AI and ML behind this. I would recommend, there are free courses available on Coursera.org. If you do not know the website, Coursera, COURSERA.org. There are basic fundamental courses on artificial intelligence and machine learning. Basically, what machine learning and artificial intelligence means is that using the previous data, we let computer to make the decision for us using the probability and statistical models. And that's what it is all about. So if you're good at probability and statistics, I think this would be something really, really interesting for you. So I recommend that website Coursera.org to get started. And if you want to really be an active contributor in that field, I would also recommend you to learn programming in Python. Learning Python is like very, very simple. If you like, it's even like easier than learning language Tamil. It's like so important. How Python revolutionized in the field of machine learning is like incredible. So I would strongly recommend start learning Python as well.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And few more questions from the YouTube comments. Can I ask you, sir? From the
yes, please. Please go ahead.
What got you interested in innovation and further motivated you to start a business in that field?
Yeah, so exactly, that fire was already there within me for a very long time, but I never got an opportunity. So when I'm working for a company like Microsoft, I worked with them for almost 20 years now. And of course, you do see a lot of opportunities there to grow and contribute and make the bigger change in the world. That's what kept me going. In fact, the passion that I had during the initial internet days, then later on the mobile web days, app ecosystem, cloud ecosystem. So all those opportunities were like let go by me, even though those are like the greatest things to work on as an entrepreneur. Then I finally made my pull myself together and then say, like, you know what, if I don't do it now, it's not going to be ever. So I would rather do it now, is what my the decision making process that I worked on myself. And finally, when I saw that AI and ML opportunity, and that's what we started working, as an entrepreneur. So what we are working on is that improving, using machine learning and artificial intelligence in improving women's health, and that's what the company that I'm working on right now. And I'm working with a couple of doctors, one in University of Washington and the one in Colorado University here in Denver. So they are my co-founders, and then I have my CEO, who's the ex-Amazon. She's someone like seasoned CEO, who already has done 20 years in Amazon. Then she has a startup. So we all came together and we saw this opportunity in how we can use artificial intelligence and machine learning in improving women's health, and that's what is we are working on.
Yes. And a couple of questions from the YouTube comments, sir. And what would you say is the most valuable lesson you have learned personally from your time in this field, AI and ML?
Yeah, so AI and ML, it's a, how do I say that? It's still early in my opinion. The problem with the AI and ML is that you need to have lots and lots of data to work with, because when you are letting computers to make decisions, they're like not like us, who are exposed to many things when we were growing up. The way we learn is almost similar to how these computers learn on when it comes to making predictions. Like way how our neurons work, we have something called perceptrons in computers. Neurons, it's artificial neurons, and that's how they learn. So the problems that I faced, and in fact challenges that I faced, and then I have to change my course multiple times, is the availability of the data, especially when it comes to healthcare. There's not much data available. Even if it is available, for the privacy reasons, they're not available to us easily. So the biggest lesson that I learned is, like, make sure that you have enough data to work on these things. If you don't have enough data, I think it's going to be very, very difficult to pursue anything on this field.
One more question.
Yes.
What can a rural entrepreneur do to tide over the challenges of the current economic situation?
Actually, I would say this is the best time to be an entrepreneur in India, for that matter. If you look, even after COVID economy, even though it's a little bit of turbulent now, India is the only country which is going to post 2-digit GDP growth compared to rest of the world. No America, no countries in Europe, not even China, their growth is not going to be like our growth. Our growth is something like really, really fast. Of course, there was some turbulence with the COVID, catastrophes, but it is going to continue to grow. I think this is the best time to be an entrepreneur in India, actually. So I would strongly recommend reach out to some of those resources. I can introduce personally to a few people. So if you have something like really, really passionate about, I think we can make something happen there.
Yes.
Good morning, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm audible, madam. Audible, sir.
Yes, yes, sir.
Well, actually, I have one clarification regarding entrepreneur.
Sure.
So any government or non-government institution, they are providing subsidies or loan from a startup entrepreneur?
Yeah, there are many actually. If you look at that website, that, and I can share this deck after this session. There are websites that you can reach out to people in Government of Tamil Nadu, who provides this platform to enable these new entrepreneurship, especially fueled by innovation. And there are some training courses. There are some videos that are available, and there are some programs and schemes in terms of finance, and everything is done by the governments. we can take advantage of that. At the same time, there are private organizations like Google and Microsoft and Amazon. They also try to invest in these kind of startups, but they are a little bit different. They are not like government. For them, they look at the ideas, they look at the team, and then they want to be heavily participating with you in terms of how this idea will shape up, and they will fund those. Like, you can get the seed funding, you can get to Series A, they help you get to Series A, to Series B, to Series C. All those steps they will handhold you, as long as they like the idea and the team. So that's also possible, but I would recommend to start with the government programs first, before we can get to the private ones.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Any questions students can post in the chat box? I think we are done with the questions. Um,
Thank
and
you.
we
Thank you very much.
There is one question. At which stage of the business a startup should one advertise or promote the business?
Yeah, that's again an interesting thing, because we are right now in stealth mode. We are not openly, publicly talking about our product yet. The reason being that there will be competitions, there will be people who copy our models, copy our ideas. So once you secure the investment funding, once you have the first few customers signed up privately, then register your model, register your business, register your copyright, and that's when would be the right time to go out in public. Of course, and when you go out in public, you should have a few customers already. You should have a working prototype, working model of whatever the product that we are working on, and of course that you should have the investment. That would be the right time to go out in public.
Thank you so much. A wonderful presentation, and the live examples. So thank you so much for sparing your valuable time and sharing your personal experiences. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and appreciate your time, and as well as all the questions and the organizing committee. And it's a great opportunity to speak from my experience, and really thank you for that.
thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Now I request Harini, student BCom Honors, to propose the vote of thanks.
Good morning, everyone present here. It is such an honor for me to get the opportunity to thank all the dignitaries. I extend a warm welcome to everyone in the gathering. I would like to express my gratitude to all the esteemed delegates of the webinar for their presence and contribution to make this webinar a great success. I extend my gratitude to our chief guest, Prabha Santana Krishnan, to take out time from his busy schedule to grace the event. Thank you for inspiring us with how to be an innovative entrepreneur and encouraging all of us here to start something small and make us give a think about it. And I'm pretty sure that all of us here already have started to think one on this day. I would also take this opportunity to thank our Principal, Vice Principal, General Secretary, GNC Media Center, and IMS for presenting over the event. I would like to thank our Dean School of Commerce and Head of the Department, Dr. R. Geeta, and coordinate efforts of our faculties. And finally, I express my gratitude to the students present for their lively participation. Thank you all. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Harini. And the feedback link is posted in the chat box. I request all the participants to fill in the feedback form. And here we come to the end of the session.
Thank you.
I thank everyone for participating in the session.